It was my birthday, not a milestone, just another number. Another tick forward in a life that had become all about maintenance. Of schedules, bank accounts, moods I wasn't allowed to disturb. But Rachel had insisted. She rented a loft in Denver, modern, industrial, exposed beams and polished floors, the kind of place that photographs well. The kind of place that looks like celebration even when it holds nothing real. "You never let anyone do anything for you," she'd said. "Let us show you we appreciate you." Appreciate. The word clanged around in my head like a dropped wrench. People don't appreciate the things they believe they deserve. And in that house, that word had stopped meaning anything years ago. The room buzzed. Friends I didn't know. Laughs I hadn't earned. A soundtrack of curated playlists, the kind that smoothed out awkward pauses. Mia and Lauren drifted through the loft like royalty, their heels clicking across the polished floors like punctuation marks. Every sentence they spoke was laced with irony, like they were narrating a joke no one else was in on. They were Rachel's daughters, but they never said her name. They called her Mom. Warm, familiar. I never had that. I was always Michael. Never Dad. Not even stepdad. Just Michael. Like a guest who stayed too long. They didn't hate me exactly. Hatred at least costs energy. What they gave me was colder. A kind of curated indifference, trained and sharpened over years. I'd paid for their summer camps, their school trips, their phones, their therapy. They repaid me in shrugs, eye rolls, and silence. Sometimes, when they forgot I was listening, they used a tone so casual in its contempt it felt almost surgical. Mia was 22, Lauren 20. Grown, technically, but still floating in that liminal space where consequence hasn't landed yet. Where someone always softens the fall. And for a long time I had been that someone. I'd bought the cake. Rachel had picked it up. One candle, not even the right number, just something symbolic. Placeholder. Mia laughed when she lit it. Minimalist. Like you, Michael. I smiled. I always did. The drinks came out around 9. Cheap wine for some, craft cocktails for others. No one checked IDs. No one cared. I kept to the wall, watching them move. Mia in a satin dress she hadn't paid for. Lauren with the kind of casual elegance that says, "I've never worried about money a day in my life." I watched them laugh and pose for photos. Watched their friends pretend to like me in front of Rachel. That was our dynamic in miniature. Public tolerance. Private mockery. Then came the toast. Mia called for quiet. Her voice cut through the chatter like a knife, practiced and clear. "To Michael," she said, lifting her glass. Lauren followed, giggling. "To the man who pays the rent but still lets us call him Michael." A few laughs. I felt the first shift then, subtle but unmistakable. The way the room tilted slightly against me. I waited for Rachel to step in. She didn't. Mia went on. "No, seriously, he's not our father. It's just a joke. He has no rights." Lauren joined in, nodding, laughing. "None. Zero. We just keep him around for his credit score." Laughter. A room full of it. Warm, unbothered. Like they'd just delivered the punchline to a running gag. A phone lit up in the corner. Someone was filming. I saw the little red recording light blinking, and for a second, I thought, that will live forever. That sentence. That moment. Rachel didn't laugh. She didn't speak either. She looked at the floor, glass in hand, motionless. Not a twitch of protest. Not even a whisper. Just silence. And that silence said more than anything else in the room. Said, "This is what you are. This is what you've always been. And I won't correct them. I won't challenge it. Because deep down I agree. I didn't flinch. I didn't blink. I just looked at her. Then at them. I didn't tell them how I spent the last 8 years stitching together the gaps their father left. I didn't list the surgeries I paid for, the car Lauren drives that still has my name on the title. I didn't remind anyone that Mia's college tuition had emptied my savings, or that I took on a second job so they wouldn't feel different from their friends. I didn't remind Rachel that the first time her ex defaulted on child support, I stepped in, quietly, without being asked, and never stopped. Because none of it mattered. Not anymore. Some debts can't be collected. especially when the people who owe you think they're entitled to everything you gave. I stood up, slowly, no dramatic flourish. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't demand anything. I put on my jacket, checked the inside pocket for my wallet, keys, phone, and then I walked out. No slammed doors, no speeches, no asking why, just silence. And in that silence was the decision, not made in that moment but finally accepted. A conclusion I had been circling for years, waiting for the right moment to admit that it had always been this way, that this family was never mine, not really. I had only been allowed to rent space in it. Like the loft, polished, temporary. I took the elevator down alone. Metal walls, dim light. My reflection stared back at me, older than I remembered. Lines deeper, shoulders heavier. By the time I reached the garage, the notifications were already starting. Photos, videos, tagged. LOL Michael's face. He really thought he was one of us. I turned off the screen. I didn't drive home. Not yet. I sat in the car, engine off, hands on the wheel. And I started making changes. Not loud ones. Not petty ones. Just corrections. The kind of corrections a man makes when he finally realizes he's been underwriting his own humiliation. The party carried on upstairs. I could still hear faint laughter through the garage ceiling. I imagined Rachel smiling politely, pretending nothing had happened. Or maybe not pretending. Maybe, to her, it was nothing. And that was the part that stayed with me. Not the joke. Not the toast. But her silence. Because that silence told me everything I needed to know. I sat in the car long enough for the Denver sky to shift colors. The city always looks cleaner from a distance. Lights spread out like promises. I stared out past the windshield and let the noise upstairs fade until it was just vibration. Someone was still laughing. Rachel wouldn't come after me. That much I already knew. She had made her choice the same way I just had, quietly. No scenes. No words. Just a shared agreement that I wasn't worth defending. That I had been useful but not essential. The more I sat there, the clearer it became. They thought I'd stay. They all did. Because I always had. Through the eye rolls, the closed doors, the long silences at the dinner table. Through the birthdays I organized and wasn't thanked for. Through the nights I stayed up to help them finish essays they didn't even bother to show me grades for. They thought I was permanent. They thought I'd keep paying. Keep showing up. Keep absorbing every slight and insult because that's what I'd always done. So I broke the pattern. The first thing I did was open the student account portal. Mia's graduate program, billed quarterly, automatically charged to a card in my name. I canceled the next payment. The balance went red. She'd get a notice by morning. Lauren's vocational program, different portal, same process. Canceled. Then I moved to the insurance site. I had added them years ago when Rachel lost coverage from her job. Family plan. Full benefits. Dental, vision, therapy. All of it severed in 4 clicks. The page confirmed the change. Policy holders, Michael, Rachel. Dependents, none. For the first time in years, it was just my name again. I logged into the joint bank account. 2 cards tied to my credit line, both in Rachel's name but used mostly by the girls. Food delivery, salon appointments, textbooks, streaming services, all of it ran through me. I disabled the cards. Canceled the Apple Family Plan. The Spotify Premium. The cloud storage they never used. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it like a man packing up after a storm. Calm. Focused. Each decision was a closing drawer, a quiet withdrawal. 8 years of support. 8 years of shouldering the weight their father left behind. And for what? A joke. Filmed on a stranger's phone. A room full of laughter. A wife who wouldn't meet my eyes. This wasn't punishment. This was clarity. At some point, I noticed my phone buzzing. Calls I didn't recognize at first, new area codes. But the voicemails filled in the blanks. Mia's trainer. Hey, Michael. I think there's a billing issue. Her monthly renewal bounced. Lauren's academic advisor. We're seeing a hold on her account tuition problem. Can you call back? Even the car lease office chimed in. Just checking in. The auto payment didn't go through for the Subaru. Want to confirm the bank change? I didn't respond. Not a word. Not even a read receipt. Later that night, the calls came from the girls themselves. First Mia. Then Lauren. No voicemails. Just missed calls stacking like cards in a losing hand. I stared at the screen as it buzzed. They had never called first before. Not once. If they needed something, they texted Rachel. If I answered, it was met with, "Oh, thanks." Like I was the handyman. Not the man who paid for the roof. Even birthdays were signed, "Love you, Mom and Michael." My name always second, like an afterthought stitched into the corner. But now the money was gone. The system was failing. And suddenly, I was no longer invisible. I didn't answer. Rachel texted just before midnight. "You misunderstood. They were joking." That was it. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just 5 words she thought would rewind everything. But the damage wasn't the joke. It wasn't even the words. It was the audience. The applause. The camera catching them smiling as they said it. The way Rachel looked at the floor, not at me. The way she folded into silence like it was her role. Like she didn't owe me even a flicker of defense. And if that silence was her truth, then this silence now, the one I returned to her, was mine. The next morning brought a cascade of alerts. Attempts to restore access to cards. Declined. Subscription reactivations. Failed. Rachel tried to reset a password. Denied. I had changed everything, locked it down like a fortress. The accounts bore only my name now. The insurance agent left another voicemail, her tone more confused than concerned. "We're just trying to figure out who's responsible now." Who's responsible now? That phrase echoed longer than it should have. Because for 8 years I had been, silently, without thanks. Every field trip form, every orthodontist bill, every forgotten deadline. I was the invisible structure that kept the household from collapsing. I was the reason Mia graduated without debt. I was the reason Lauren had her license, her therapy, her part-time job close to home. And they called me a joke. Said I had no rights. Now they would find out what that actually meant. I stayed at a hotel that week. Rachel didn't ask where I'd gone. She didn't call. Maybe she thought I just needed space. That I'd cool off. That I'd come home and pretend none of it mattered. She didn't understand. It had already been years since I felt like part of that home. When I left, I took nothing but my laptop and my keys. Everything else, the clothes, the books, the photos on the walls, felt like it belonged to a life that wasn't mine. A life I had financed but never truly lived. In the hotel room, it was quiet. No slamming doors. No passive-aggressive glances across the kitchen table. Just stillness. A vacuum. And in that stillness, I began to feel something unfamiliar. Not anger. Not sadness. Relief. For the first time in years, there was no one asking. No one needing. No one ignoring me in the same breath they depended on me. Just me. And the understanding that I had been holding up a structure that didn't want to acknowledge its foundation. By Friday, I stopped checking my phone. The calls kept coming. The texts turned more urgent. "Hey, can you fix this? My insurance is gone. My card isn't working. Did you forget something? Michael, this isn't funny." But it wasn't supposed to be funny. Not anymore. Humor requires mutual understanding. Shared ground. They had burned that ground for applause. And Rachel? She had the audacity to message again. "We need to talk." They didn't mean it. But they did. And so did she. You don't say things like that in front of a room full of people unless you believe them. And you don't stand in silence unless you agree. What they meant was that I wasn't a father. I was a function, a balance sheet, a tool. And tools don't get respect. They get used. But not anymore. By the end of the week, I had restructured everything. Transferred funds to a personal account. Rewritten my will. Removed Mia and Lauren from my health directives. Canceled their emergency contacts. Changed my passwords. Erased the traces. What they didn't understand was that I wasn't angry. I was done. Done pretending. Done hoping they'd grow into gratitude. Done believing that silence was strength. That loft, that toast, that laugh, it didn't ruin a relationship. It revealed it. I hadn't lost a family. I'd lost the illusion of one. It was Saturday morning when the first real panic came through. Not a text. Not a missed call. A knock. Not even that, really. More like a frantic hammering. Flat palms against wood. Fast and uneven. The kind that says something's gone wrong and someone else has to fix it. I didn't answer. I knew who it was. I watched from the side of the window just out of view. Mia stood on the porch of the apartment I'd rented in town, her nails tapping her phone as she waited. She looked smaller than usual, her makeup uneven, her coat too thin for the cold. She tried the doorbell again. Then she spoke, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "Michael, please, I just want to talk." That was new. Michael. Not hey. Not silence. A name. Mine. I let her stand there. 5 minutes. Then 10. She paced. She texted. She knocked again. Then finally, with a loud exhale, she turned and walked away. The message came an hour later. "You could have at least told us you were upset. You just vanished. It's messed up." Upset. I stared at that word until the screen dimmed. That was the lens they chose, that I had overreacted, that my absence was the disruption. Not their mockery. Not Rachel's silence. Not the years I gave away like loose change. They couldn't see the fault because they never had to carry it. But the world was shifting beneath them now. And slowly, painfully, I watched them realize just how deep they'd depended on a man they never bothered to know. Rachel messaged again that evening. "They're scared. Lauren's therapy was canceled. Mia's tuition is now overdue. Why are you doing this?" There it was. Not what happened. Not we're sorry. Just why are you doing this? I didn't reply. That night I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. It was the clinic Lauren used for weekly appointments. "Hi, we're calling about Lauren Sanders. We've had her coverage flagged as inactive, and payment hasn't been updated. We'll need confirmation before her next session." Another message from Mia's university came through shortly after. A billing alert. Financial hold initiated. Student access restricted pending resolution. Their safety net was unraveling, and they still didn't understand why. The next morning, the tone changed. Lauren called. Her voice cracked on the message. "Michael, I know you're mad. I get it. But I didn't mean it like that. Okay. It was just stupid. Please don't screw up my therapy over a joke. Please. Screw up." As if she were doing me a favor by letting me pay for it in the first place. That afternoon, I went for a walk. Downtown, nothing specific in mind. Just movement. Just air. My phone buzzed in my pocket the whole time. 8 missed calls. 3 from Rachel. 1 from Mia's roommate. 1 from a number I knew was Lauren's friend, because I used to drive her to school when Lauren overslept. All of them orbiting around the same silent center, me. And all of them arriving too late. By Monday, Rachel stopped being polite. "You've made your point. Now fix it." No please. No apology. No ownership. Just a command. Because in her mind, I wasn't a man. I was a lever. A switch. Something that could be flipped off and on, according to what the family needed that day. They never asked how I managed to support all of them. The side jobs. The weekends I gave up. The meals skipped to cover their dance recitals, driving lessons, emergencies. They never asked what I wanted, what I needed. They just waited for me to keep showing up. And when I finally stepped back, the world didn't make sense anymore. The girls kept calling. Not out of love. Not out of guilt. Out of fear. Because the system had cracked, and they were finally seeing the man behind it. On Tuesday, Rachel came to the apartment. She didn't knock right away. I saw her from the window, just standing there in her coat, holding something in her hands. She looked older than I remembered. More tired. Not from work, from consequence. When she finally knocked, it was soft. I opened the door. She didn't speak at first. Just looked at me. Her eyes were red. "I brought your mail." She held out a stack, bills, catalogs, junk. The kind of things people pretend still tie them to a place. "Thanks," I said. "You've made everything harder than it needed to be." I didn't answer. I let the words sit between us like something rotting. She looked around the small apartment. This is what you want? No, I said. It's what I need. She swallowed hard. They're suffering. I know. They're just kids. They're adults, I corrected. Old enough to know what respect costs. Old enough to humiliate me in front of a crowd. It was a joke, she said again, softer this time. They didn't mean it. Yes, I said. They did. And so did you. You didn't stop them. You didn't even flinch. I didn't know what to say. That's the problem, Rachel, I said. You never do. She blinked like I'd slapped her. I was trying to keep the peace. There was no peace, I said. Just quiet. You let them believe I didn't matter, as long as the checks cleared and the fridge stayed full. I didn't mean for this to happen. No, I said. You just meant for it to never be questioned. She stepped back. You're not the only one who gave things up, Michael. I never said I was. You're punishing all of us. No, I said. I'm removing myself. That's not punishment. That's consequence. She left. Didn't slam the door. Didn't say goodbye. 2 days passed. Then Mia showed up. She didn't knock either. Just waited outside, sitting on the curb like a teenager grounded by the world. When I opened the door, she stood quickly. Her voice cracked before she could finish the first word. Michael, I'm sorry. I waited. I messed up. I know I did. I wasn't thinking. It was just stupid. I was nervous and people were watching and it came out wrong. Please, I didn't mean it. I nodded. But you said it. I know. And you laughed. I didn't think. You didn't think I mattered. Silence. Lauren's not sleeping, she said. She's having panic attacks. Her therapist won't see her without payment. I said nothing. She needs help. And I needed respect, I said. But I didn't get it. I know. I'm trying. No, Mia. You're scrambling. You're not apologizing because you see me differently. You're apologizing because I stopped paying. Her mouth opened, closed. I raised you, I said. Maybe not in blood, but I carried you. You don't get to erase that for a joke. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't want to lose you. You already did, I said. The moment you looked me in the eye and told a room full of people that I had no rights, that I was nothing, that I was optional. She took a step closer. So that's it? You're just done? No, I said. I'm finished pretending. There's a difference. I closed the door before she could answer. That night, I lay awake. Not angry, not even hurt, just hollow, like someone who had finally paid off a debt and found the account overdrawn anyway. I had kept the system alive. I had sacrificed, bent, adjusted, swallowed every indignity for years, all to maintain a family that saw me as replaceable. Now they were learning what it meant to be without me. And the worst part? They didn't miss me. They missed what I gave them. The calls stopped before the apologies came. That was the first thing I noticed. One by one, they gave up trying to reach me. The missed calls turned into unanswered messages. Then nothing at all. It was quiet again. And this time it felt earned. I spent the next 2 weeks in the apartment. Cooked for one. Slept without interruption. Paid bills that belonged only to me. It was strange how quickly life shrank to its essentials when you stopped carrying everyone else's weight. Strange how silence, once painful, could become freedom. Then one night, just past 11, my phone lit up. Not a number. Not a name. A video. Sent from a friend I hadn't heard from in years. Someone who'd been at the loft that night. Someone who hadn't laughed. You should see this, the message said. It's making the rounds again. I didn't want to open it. But I did. There it was. The moment. The toast. The laughter. Mia raising her glass. Lauren's smirk beside her. He's not our father. It's just a joke. He has no rights. They laughed. The crowd laughed. And there, just in the corner of the frame, you could see me. Still expressionless. Sitting at the edge of my own celebration. Then the camera shifted. For a second, not long, it caught Rachel. She was looking down, just as I remembered. Not at them. Not at me. just away. The video ended. I stared at the screen until it timed out. They had laughed because they believed they were safe, because they thought they'd never pay for it. They didn't understand that what they'd buried under years of jokes and silence had finally broken surface. That what was done in front of others never stays private. That some wounds get filmed, go viral, come back in echoes. The next day, a message from Lauren. Short. I know you've seen the video. I'm sorry. Truly. Please don't let this be the last thing between us. But it already was. Not the video, the truth it captured. The hierarchy it revealed. They didn't see me as a father. Only as a man who gave them things. And once that faucet stopped, only then did they remember I was a person. By the end of that month, Rachel emailed me. Not a text this time. An actual email. Formal. Like business. Subject. Bills/situation at home. She laid it all out. Mia had been placed on academic probation. A tuition balance Rachel couldn't cover was now months past due. Lauren's therapy plan had been fully suspended. Her job didn't pay enough for private coverage. The joint credit card, the one I had frozen, was flagged for non-payment. She asked, "Is there any way to split it? Just until I'm caught up?" She used the word "we" a lot. "We're struggling. We didn't expect this. We miss your presence. We didn't mean what was said." That's the thing about silence. When you break it, the words come out curated, rewritten, tamed. But I remembered the originals. I remembered her eyes locked on the floor, not on them, not on me. I remembered the moment her silence aligned with their contempt, and how easily it happened. So I didn't answer the email. Instead, I logged into the credit account and paid the remaining balance. In full. Then I closed it. Not for them. For me. I wouldn't let my name rot alongside theirs. 2 days later, a handwritten letter came in the mail. Lauren's handwriting. Careful. Blue ink. Smudged in places. 3 pages. Every line weighed down with apology. She wrote about the early years, about how I used to make her pancakes in animal shapes when she cried after her father didn't call. She remembered the road trips, the board games, the night I waited outside her first job when her shift went too late and she was afraid to walk to her car. She said she didn't know what love was supposed to look like back then, only what absence felt like. That she filled the empty space with noise, and some of that noise had turned into cruelty. She ended it with, "I know you may never forgive me, but I wanted you to know I see it now. Everything you did. I see it." I folded the letter, slid it back into the envelope, and set it in the drawer. That night, I dreamed of a house without voices, a dinner table without tension, a life measured only by the people who chose to see me, not the ones who inherited me like furniture and gave me back with interest. I didn't respond to the letter, but I didn't throw it away either. A week later, Rachel called. I let it ring. Then she texted. "Mia's moving back in. She's dropped out. We're looking at options. Just letting you know." Letting me know. Not asking. Not inviting. Just a passing notification, like I was the superintendent of a building she used to rent. I didn't reply. I imagined them there, in the house I paid off, watching the video circle again, seeing how they looked to the outside world. How their joke, their truth, played when the music faded. You learn a lot about people when you stop paying for them. The first thing they lose is their balance. Then the certainty. Then the story they told themselves to sleep at night, that they could treat someone like nothing and still expect everything. I moved out fully that month. Legally, financially, emotionally. Removed my name from the deed. Withdrew from all accounts. Finalized separation. I left them the furniture, the subscriptions, the empty gestures. All I took was my name. Strange what that name meant to me. Not pride. Not legacy. Just weight. A title I carried on their behalf for years. Father in everything but biology. Husband in everything but loyalty. And when they stripped it from me, I realized how light I felt. Not because I lost them, because I stopped pretending they were ever mine. They call less now. Rarely, if at all. Every few weeks, a message will land. Sometimes Lauren. Sometimes Rachel. Never Mia. The girl who made the toast never apologized. Not directly. Not even when the video surfaced. Not even when it cost her a scholarship. A quiet decision the university never explained, but we both knew why. She lives in the guest room now, I heard. The same one I built into an office. The one they used to mock me for. Michael's cave. They called it. That's where she sleeps now. That too felt poetic. Sometimes I wonder what they tell people about me now. If I'm the villain. The one who abandoned them. The stepfather who snapped. Or maybe I'm a ghost. Cautionary tale. Proof that support isn't permanent, and that generosity has a pulse. And when it stops, it's final. Rachel never remarried. I doubt she will. She learned what it costs to lose the man in the background. The man who never asked for thanks but needed something deeper. Respect. I never wanted love. Not really. Not from them. Love is easy. Love is messy. People say they love you while bleeding you dry. But respect, that's earned. That's chosen. And that's the part they never gave. Not once. So I left. Not in anger. Not in grief. But in full possession of my choice. And when people ask, because sometimes they do, old coworkers or distant cousins, I tell them the truth. I had a family once. For a while. But they laughed when I told them I mattered. And then I asked them, plainly, would you have stayed? That's the question that ends the conversation. Because if they say yes, they admit they have no spine. If they say no, they admit I was right. So I live now in peace. Not joy. Not triumph. Just peace. Because sometimes survival looks like walking away. Sometimes respect begins where sacrifice ends. And sometimes the only power you have left is the door you don't open. So I ask you, whoever you are, wherever you sit, if someone filmed your humiliation and called it a joke, if your wife looked down instead of speaking up, if the children you raised declared you a ghost, would you have stayed? Or would you have done what I did? Walked away without a word, and never paid another bill for their silence?